Now we're going to show you how to do the Good Neighbor commercial. Now remember, let's open the script first. Let's just take a look at it. Here's the voiceover. You know how to do that. Now, even though the music indicates that it comes up at the same time as the voice and the sound effects of this is the talking of the crowd inside the store. They show that they come up at the same time. When you're editing, you don't want to do it that way. You want to lay down the voiceover first and then go through and take out all the background noise. And then you also want to trim it up to the proper amount. And then if you need to either shorten it or lengthen it based on the time, using that effect, the shift pitch effect, you do that to make it be 29.5 seconds. Then you lay down the voice first, and then you go back and you put the sound effect. So the first sound effect you would put in would be the crowd noise, and you mix that to the proper level so it mixes right with the voiceover. And then there's this cash register sound, and you put it right as he says, extra strength Tylenol caplets are now just $6.77. So right after $6.77 you should hear the chick-ching. And then the very last thing you do in any commercial, radio commercial, is put in the music last, and then because that's got to mix underneath everything that's already been there. So let's go ahead and, keeping that workflow in mind, let's launch Audition here real quick. Okay. Now on the day you're going to record this for your major project, so we're going to do it the same way in class. So I want you to pair up with each other, and one person is going to get on the stopwatch on their phone and the other person's on their voice recorder. You're going to start recording and record without saying anything for 3 seconds. Just count in your head 1001, 1002, 1003. So you're recording the room tone or the area tone, so you can use that to take out the background noise later on. And after you've paused for 3 seconds, you're still recording. You count down 3, 2, 1, and you'll say the voiceover. When the person who has got the stopwatch, as the other person counts down 3, 2, 1, and then right before they start to talk, you start the stopwatch. And when they finish the last line of the script, you stop it and you see how long it is. Now, what it needs to be is within 2 seconds of 30 seconds. So you can be as short as 28 seconds or as long as 32 seconds. If you're shorter than 28 or you're longer than 32, you need to redo it, because the time and pitch shift effect starts to be really noticeable that you used it when it has to adjust by more than 2 seconds. But if you're within 2 seconds short or 2 seconds long, that'll be fine and you shouldn't have to redo it. Alright, now I've already pre-recorded this because you know how to do that, and I can't really demonstrate that on the video anyway. But let's go ahead and let's import the voiceover. So that's step number 1, always, whenever doing a radio commercial. So we're going to import, and I put my folder on the desktop here. So we're going to get Good Neighbor VO2, that's for me. And we're going to put that in there. Okay. Now, if you just import a single file, it goes into the waveform, which is the single track editor, and that's what we want. Let's just listen to this first of all. You'll hear that there's the noise I recorded at the beginning. This is the actual room tone. So you can see it's actually pretty loud there. And then once I've recorded enough room tone, I don't do anything else. I just keep recording, and I count down 3, 2, 1, and I start saying the script. So you can see it's a nice slow, not slow, but relaxed read through the material. And then at the end here, I just stop the recorder after I speak. I don't try to cut off my last word by turning off the recorder right away. I just let it roll a little bit. Okay, and then that's it. So let's do step number 1. Let's select that room tone at the beginning and just play to make sure there's no voice inside of it. And so far so good. So let's go up to Effects and down to Noise Reduction, and let's capture the noise print, which is the sound of just the background noise with no talking. And it's going to remind you that that's what it's doing. It's picturing just the noise print. So let's say OK, and then do a Command A to select the entire piece, and let's go back to Effects. And this time we're going to apply the noise reduction process. And you can adjust it here a little bit, but you just preview it. You can see the background noise is mostly gone. Okay, once you're happy with it, go ahead and apply. You can adjust this up and down. Be careful, if you adjust this too much, it'll actually cut into the voice itself. So you don't want to play with these too awfully much. If you're still hearing background noise, you can turn both of these up just a little bit and then play another preview. But once you're happy with it, just let it go. And then hit apply. And it gets applied pretty quick, and you see how all the noise is flattened out. Now, step 2, after you've done all that, is to get rid of the countdown. So you can see here very clearly it's 3, 2, 1. So let's just go in front of it here and click and drag backwards and hit delete or backspace. And then let's double check it to make sure we didn't cut off one of the first words. So that's good. And at the end here, the same thing. So let's go in here and get this off and hit backspace, and then let's make sure again we didn't cut off any words or leave any little crumpling at the end. And it's very nice. Okay, so now we're going to come down here and look and see. Now I've voiced this over a few times, so I kind of knew the pace to skip. So I'm within half a second. Okay, I'm 29:00. Okay, now what you want to make sure you do is come up here to your time bar here and right click, and the time display, you want to make sure that you're showing SMPTE 2997 frames per second drop frame. That's drop. So that's standard TV and also radio time code. So that's the one you want. Okay. And once you've got that, then you're going to select the whole thing again with a Command A. And then you're going to come up here to Effects and go to Time and Pitch and Stretch and Pitch. And the current time is 29 seconds, and we want it to be the new duration. So we're going to remember it's 30 frames a second, so half a second is 15 frames. So we're going to dial this down to 29:15. Okay, I'm just clicking and dragging to make that go down. And again, I can preview it just to make sure it's not too slow or fast. Since I'm only moving it by basically half a second, it's not really going to be noticeable. So I'm just going to hit apply, and it does it relatively quickly, but it'll make it be 29.5 seconds. If I go to the end, I can see that it's exactly 29:15 now. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to the multi-track, because now we're ready to add the other tracks. So again, when we start a multi-track session, we're going to call this Good Neighbor, and we're going to go back to our folder where we came from and make sure we're inside that folder. Let's go back on the Good Neighbor Pharmacy and hit choose to save it, and then OK, and yes. Alright, so now let's take the voiceover and drop it on the timeline. Okay, so there it is. Now the first thing we're going to lay down is the background, the store noise. So let's right click, import. Let's go to the store sound, and let's bring that in here. And let's just put it down on the timeline. Now this may not be the same sample rate as the project, so it may ask us to change it. So yes, we're going to change the sample rate to match the project. So let's go ahead and do that, and it takes a few seconds to process. Now let's just hit solo, the S button, and let's just listen to the background by itself. Okay, so people start talking about there, so let's just trim this here to about where the people are starting to talk, and then just drag this back. Okay, now it's pretty quiet, but I'm just going to leave this at 0 for now. I'm going to hit the backslash key on the keyboard so I can see the whole thing, because this obviously goes way beyond the end of it. So I'm just going to drag it back and let it snap to the end here, and then I'm going to unsolo it. I'm going to hit the backslash to make it all fit. I'm going to play it from the beginning and listen to how it sounds with the voice and adjust the level as needed, because we just want the background to be almost subliminal, but just there. Okay, so let's actually bring it up a little bit. Let's go to +3, enter. It's maybe a little too much, so let's just go to +1. Okay. Oh, maybe +2. Let's go with +2. All right, so that's good. Now the cash register effect comes in at the line for 677. So let's find that. So 677. That's where the ching has to happen. So let's get the cash register sound. Right click and go to import and cash register, and as we bring this in, and let's put it down on the timeline, and let's zoom in. We're going to convert it, sample rate it also, and If we zoom in just a little bit, hitting the plus key, we can see where the chick-ching is right here, but let's just play it. Again, let's just solo it. So the chick-ching is right here. So that's where we want to line up with the 677. So let's find where that is. Okay, let's unsolo it. The 677 needs to happen right there at the chick-ching right after that. So let's test it out. Okay, now that's pretty loud. So let's bring this down about -3 and let's listen. Still a little loud. So let's go to -5. Just want it to be almost subliminal. That's pretty good. Okay, so now the last thing we're going to do is put in the music. So let's right click, import. We're going to go to the Avocado Street music, bring that in. Okay, now let's drop this in here. Let's go convert its sample rate. Let's go all the way to the beginning here, and let's zoom in. Let it convert, finish converting. Let's bring this to the beginning. And if we zoom in with the plus key, we'll notice that there's a little bit of silence before the music actually starts. So let's grab the very first part of the music here with just a little tool. You have to kind of move up and down until it changes this little pitchfork looking tool, and then trim off that silence, and then just bring it over. Okay, and then you can hit the backslash key, and there's the end of the commercial. So let's grab the end of this and trim it all the way back. Okay, and again hit the backslash, and just make sure that the end of the music actually finishes at 30. And you can see this little line up here will snap to 30 right there. And then to put a nice little fade, you hold down the shift key and fade this out. Give it a nice little couple second fade there. And you can kind of line it up with what's up here. So if you line it up with 28, that's a 2-second fade. Line it up with about 27. It's about a 3-second fade. And let's also fade out the crowd noise so it doesn't just cut off at the end, although it's pretty quiet. So let's give it about a 1 or 2 second fade here on the crowd noise here. We don't have to fade the cash register out. And let's save, Command S. Okay, and let's play from the beginning. Let's hit home and the backslash key, and let's play the whole thing. Okay, now the music obviously too loud, so we're going to start. Let's start at -15 dB. Okay, it's too quiet. Let's try -10. Hit home. Still kind of fighting it a little, so let's go to -12. And that's it. Then we save, Command S, and then we do an export. So we're going to go File, Export, Multi-Track Mixdown, the entire session. And we're going to call it Good Neighbor Mixdown. We're going to browse out to where it's going to go, which I'm going to put it back in that same folder that the original came from. We're going to hit Save, and then OK. Oh, make sure it's an MP3 file, because SoundCloud doesn't take anything but MP3s. And just hit OK, and it'll take a couple seconds to export, and you're all done. Upload to SoundCloud and embed in your ICA's page. Make sure to name it correctly. It's called Good Neighbor Pharmacy,